His vibrato is wide enough. He sometimes drifts a little bit higher than Elvis used to do. When Bob does it, it's ever so slightly higher than when Elvis used to do it. So that's a tiny difference.
For over 40 years, one riddle has haunted the internet and refused to disappear. Could an unassuming pastor from rural Arkansas somehow share far more than just a strikingly similar voice with music royalty? The general public dismisses it as conspiracy fiction. Yet when a credentialed audio researcher using the exact same tools employed in courtroom testimony examined archival recordings, the resulting data supposedly presented far more unanswered questions than conclusive solutions. Was this merely a statistical fluke, or had the methodology uncovered something that devotees secretly suspected? The audio signature that baffled Analyst's Dr. Martin Rivera had invested 23 years inside forensic acoustic laboratories, carefully examining approximately 8,000 distinct audio samples during his tenure. His background provided credibility to several high-profile criminal proceedings where acoustic profiling had supported suspect identification, exoneration decisions, and courtroom testimony. Following decades of trusting measurement-driven science, he possessed minimal skepticism about the procedures that established his professional standing. During the spring of 2019, Rivera received an assignment that appeared routine on its surface. A production company approached him requesting independent analysis of one persistent web-based urban legend, specifically the assertion that an Arkansas-based pastor identified as Bob Joyce represented none other than the King of Rock living incognito. Having assessed parallel claims across celebrity culture, he anticipated a rapid conclusion that would debunk the speculation. He assembled premium recordings spanning Elvis's complete recording timeline, selecting performances exhibiting optimal sound clarity for precise measurement. He also procured religious recordings and sermon material delivered publicly by Bob Joyce. Applying proprietary vocal matching software, he examined elements like throat tone quality, pitch trajectory, breathing signatures, and additional characteristics that acoustic specialists regard as individually distinctive. Given his background expectations, Rivera anticipated finding moderate compatibility scores at best. Instead, the initial comparison produced a match percentage exceeding 94%. The result left him momentarily shocked. Rather than crediting the outcome, Rivera believed system error might have occurred. He erased his parameters, picked up different vocal samples spanning multiple periods, and executed the matching procedure repeatedly. He examined recording studio sessions, performance footage, private recordings, and expanded selections of Bob Joyce material spanning separate years and venues. Every successive analysis demonstrated strikingly consistent results, producing percentage ranges between the low 90s and almost 97%. What disturbed Rivera most wasn't a sole aberrant result, but the remarkable steadiness. Recording medium variation, year separation, and setting differences appeared irrelevant. The measurement stayed persistently uniform. For Rivera, replicating this pattern proved harder to rationalize than a random spike. When two unconnected individuals happen to sound comparable, numerical results typically fluctuate across sequential analyses. Yet the reported consistency suggested something atypical. This stability directed him toward investigation extending beyond computational data. Motivated to understand underlying mechanisms, Rivera expanded his examination past strictly acoustic testing. He initiated thorough research into Joyce's documented history. This investigation would eventually guide him toward aged documentation in Arkansas, where an astonishing discovery would redirect the entire inquiry. The genealogical lead nobody foresaw determined to locate non-scientific explanations for the acoustic correlations, Dr. Martin Rivera directed attention toward institutional archives. If matching results genuinely indicated something noteworthy, he postulated that evidence would surface outside laboratory conditions. During continued investigation, Rivera reportedly discovered an ecclesiastical registration from Arkansas dated October 22, 1978, roughly 14 months following the widely documented death of Elvis Presley. The record documented the christening of an individual named Robert Allen Joyce, signifying his introduction to a modest congregation in the Baptist tradition. Beyond the calendar timing, Rivera discovered an additional component even more fascinating. His focus shifted toward the individuals cited in the christening documentation, elements he judged merited deeper investigation. The supervising clergyman bore identification as Reverend James Hamill, a figure devotees believed had personal connections with Elvis during younger years and contributed to spiritual formation. Contemporary archives revealed, however, that Hamill's documented demise occurred during 1975, years ahead of the baptism event. Yet another notation delivered shocking information. A signature marked as a recorded attendee resembled that of Elvis Presley, the deceased artist's family member and extended relative. This person had maintained presence at Graceland property throughout his career and reportedly maintained closeness to the artist. Why would such a family figure participate in the religious ceremony of an otherwise unfamiliar rural cleric? Pursuing resolution, Rivera searched for remaining descendants of Elvis Presley's lineage. Following exhaustive research spanning months, he purportedly discovered Elvis's aging female offspring, Patty Presley, residing inside a residential healthcare community in Tennessee. Recognizing her probable reluctance addressing repeated speculation through decades, he planned this conversation with deliberation, emphasizing data rather than making implications. Patty listened without verbal response initially, absorbing Rivera's presentation of supposed acoustic findings and the ceremonial notation. Following extended quiet reflection, she ultimately provided commentary. She conveyed quietly that certain historical truths were withheld not for deceptive purposes, but rather to shield vulnerable people. That surprising answer apparently inspired greater questioning persistence. Throughout the subsequent discussion lasting several hours, she recollected experiences that believers propose furnished a radically distinct interpretation of events preceding Elvis's ultimate chapter. Her narrative suggested secretive exchanges and weighty choices remained purposefully concealed from public awareness. Her following description would later comprise the most poignant component, concentrating on an alleged private family gathering occurring roughly 1 month before the August 1977 circumstances that transformed everything. The family's concealed narrative, Patty Presley, recounted a secretive gathering that purportedly happened roughly a month prior to Elvis's documented death during August 1977. She reported that select family insiders received summons to Graceland, where Elvis, alongside his paternal parent Vernon Presley, held confidential discussions about determinations that would permanently restructure their existence. Patty recollected observing Elvis appearing depleted from sustained worldwide recognition, simultaneously projecting unusual tranquility and purposefulness. She described him expressing that ongoing celebrity existence had turned unbearable. Relentless touring requirements, fiscal pressures, and surrounding stress from his professional position had rendered him sensation of total imprisonment without any apparent resolution. She indicated further that Elvis concluded withdrawing from celebrity existence represented the singular avenue for reclaiming inner peace. Based on Patty's narration, a restricted group of trustworthy relatives purportedly engineered a strategy permitting him to relinquish his famous persona and institute a quiet existence anchored in religious devotion. Verification regarding these declarations remains unavailable, absent independent documentary corroboration. Patty's most touching memory involved what she portrayed as a nighttime call immediately preceding Elvis's passing. She reported his speech conveyed remarkable serenity as he conveyed to her that tomorrow symbolized either termination or renewal. In Patty's recollection, he extended appreciation for her decades-long companionship before global celebrity status arrived and proposed that perhaps, should events proceed as anticipated, she eventually might perceive indications demonstrating his effective fresh beginning using alternative identification. Patty proceeded explaining that subsequently, beyond the first 12 months. Her biological father, Vester, reached out requesting she offer spiritual support for an individual designated Bob Joyce, establishing ecclesiastical leadership in rural Arkansas. She construed the solicitation as possessing deeper significance, recognizing it as affirmation that outcomes had progressed successfully. Throughout Rivera's continuous inquiry, he allegedly discovered supplementary information advocates considered consequential. Among these consisted of suggestions that Bob Joyce appeared in official documentation displaying minimal biographical background preceding 1978, and that land associated with Joyce bore alleged connection to fiscal structures connected to Vernon Presley's estate. Independent verification regarding these declarations has not transpired. Patty presented Rivera with what she characterized as family photography from 1981. Based on her perspective, the photograph seemed to capture Vernon alongside an individual bearing substantial resemblance to an aged Elvis. She additionally suggested this supposedly showed Vernon's continued existence past his officially documented conclusion, assertions directly conflicting with established records. The factual accuracy of such narrations remained indeterminate. Nevertheless, for Rivera, the interaction fundamentally altered his investigative trajectory. Rather than emphasizing oral recollections and questioned archival sources exclusively, he determined revisiting the substance he considered most dependable, the mathematics underlying vocal characteristics themselves. Might physiology supply clarification? After processing Patty Presley's narrative, Dr. Martin Rivera reoriented toward investigative content, permitting objective assessment. Cultural narratives and institutional papers presented interpretive complications, yet he judged the audio method justified thorough re-examination. His strategy centered not on validating the hypothesis, rather on establishing if audio correlations obtained scientific justification grounded in physical anatomy. Rivera narrowed attention to anatomical measurements obtained via acoustic assessment rather than artistic expression or communication manner. Proponents contend that components like laryngeal construction, acoustic property, breathing mechanics, and additional physiological characteristics display consistency through lifetime phases and prove considerably harder to imitate than regional language patterns or voice impersonation. A specific attribute reportedly commanded exceptional consideration. Rivera proposed both subjects displayed characteristics consistent with partial bilateral laryngeal weakness, a scarce pathology involving diminished laryngeal activity. Based on the hypothesis framework, such conditions shape vocal output, necessitating microscopic adjustments in respiratory mechanics and throat activation turning instinctive after extended periods. Advocates maintain these involuntary accommodation procedures remain distinctive to individuals and resist intentional reproduction. The analysis reportedly documented that matched vocals exhibited not simply identical pathological indicator, yet parallel adjustment methodology across spoken discourse and melodic output. Rivera assessed this finding as potentially the most noteworthy throughout comparison execution. For additional investigation, he reportedly examined a 1977 Elvis recording of How Great Thou Art next to Joyce's subsequent interpretation of the identical spiritual composition, modifying for acoustic recording variation and setting distinction. The spectrographic assessment purportedly illustrated unexpected parallel between vocal characteristics. Per Rivera's perspective, oscillating composition, acoustic bandwidth, and timing demonstrated remarkable alignment exceeding his predictive assessment, rather than restricting assessment exclusively to independent examination. Rivera reportedly forwarded the materials to organizations providing forensic acoustic examination supporting litigation contexts. He deliberately omitted speaker credentials, requesting purely objective acoustic evaluation. Based on documented accounts, each organization provisionally communicated that vocal recordings appeared harmonious with equivalent individual across differing lifetime intervals. Documented claims suggested specialists identified remarkable correspondence independent of timeline passage. One organization purportedly recommended recording discrepancies resulted from expected maturation consequences. Alternative laboratory cited distributed pathological indicator as possibly consequential. Documented information remains unverified. Nevertheless, however, Rivera described a transition once he solicited publishable documentation. One organization reportedly demanded supplementary research preceding conclusion publication. Alternate laboratory rejected expanded engagement, while remaining organization purportedly communicated preference against participation within documented celebrity-associated circumstances. Establishing whether these developments reflected orthodox caution versus other considerations persists disputed. Nevertheless, Rivera believed unanswered inquiries remained plentiful. Following dissemination regarding his investigative outcomes through digital platforms, prior acquaintances of Bob Joyce started presenting declarations they considered relevant. The individuals whose accounts produced additional confusion following public disclosure concerning Dr. Martin Rivera's research via web communities, extra individuals surfaced articulating personal narratives they conceived substantiated the Joyce Presley correlation. Regardless of verification status, Rivera documented their narratives as supplementary declarations deserving archival preservation, incorporated within his acoustic evaluation. He cataloged their testimonies, constituting part of expanded informational archive some believe contribute substantively to continuing examination regarding the hypothesis. Multiple ecclesiastical congregation members portrayed Bob Joyce as displaying extraordinary familiarity with Memphis geography across the 1950 decade. He articulated districts, notable structures, and ordinary locality specifics possessing uncommon certainty. Additional congregation participants alleged he manifested emotional reactions whenever the artist received reference or his compositions got performed. An ecclesiastical participant recollected a spiritual teaching session wherein Joyce allegedly suspended dialogue concerning societal position and thoughtfully remarked that possessing universal desire had approximately devastated crucial relationships. Rivera also mentioned communicating with a retired medical professional providing healthcare to Joyce throughout the 1980s timeframe. Joyce exhibited persistent digestive difficulties that believers theorize paralleled medical complications the artist experienced. Confirmation regarding such pathological overlap remains absent inside accessible healthcare documentation, yet Rivera counted this testimony as supplementary corroboration. An additional declaration originated from a previous dental professional reportedly conducting orthodontic assessment for each subject years apart. Per Rivera's documentation, this specialist thought the individuals manifested remarkably comparable dentition characteristics encompassing analogous jaw configuration and tooth spacing. A particularly remarkable account derived from a former Memphis regulation officer. Rivera professed this retired authority explained assignment to transport what he appraised as a deceased individual for medical assessment throughout dawn moments on August 16, 1977. The retired official purportedly regarded the circumstances with uncertainty and subsequently proposed that recorded incidents contradicted his typical observations. He allegedly maintained he obtained financial incentive assuring confidentiality concerning his observations. Official documentation never substantiated such declarations. During 2023, Bob Joyce perpetuated his ecclesiastical occupation in rural Arkansas, declining media engagement and emphasizing biblical teaching above addressing ongoing public supposition concerning personal identity. Supporting the hypothesis, his deliberate seclusion seemingly embodied the type of existence believers theorized Elvis pursued. For doubting perspectives, it remained merely additional scenario reinterpreted as validation. Despite compiling individual testimonies, Rivera still lacked definitive confirmation resolving the disagreement permanently. Subsequently, an astonishing parcel reached his office originating from Arkansas. One final correspondence, the inquiry, underwent yet another unexpected development during November 2023. Dr. Martin Rivera purportedly obtained postal delivery bearing Arkansas origin yet absent sender identification. The delivery comprised an individual written message utilizing ecclesiastical organization stationery. The transmission bore no attribution, yet its deliberately constructed language instantly garnered Rivera's focus. The message expressed resonance intended for planetary transformation, sustained such reverberance for sufficient duration, currently speaks quietly toward individuals requiring sacred communication minus ghost impressions. The individual sought perished during 1977. The identity currently embodied originated during 1978. Simultaneous reality remains possible. Despite lacking signature notation, Rivera judged the penmanship warranted specialized study. Reportedly, he examined the composition against samples from the artist's private epistolary materials spanning the mid-1970s. He concentrated upon letter structure, stylus influence, graphical arrangement, and supplementary elements specialists ordinarily examine inside writing authentication. Rivera reported the graphic correlations surprised him, particularly regarding uppercase construction methodology. Assertions involving these observations remain unvalidated and merit presentation as insufficient authorship substantiation. For Rivera, the transmission seemed to synthesize numerous hypotheses he had investigated extensively. The documented acoustic evaluation, questioned institutional papers, documented family commentary, participant recollections, and supplementary written correlation reportedly appeared collectively indicating singular possibility. Yet notwithstanding comprehensive gathering, none delivered categorical, open verification sufficient for complete explanation. Such ambiguity predominates within the Joyce Presley speculation today. Proponents assert reported correspondences span too extensive for dismissal as arbitrary chance. They reference the acoustic measurements, genealogical connections explained through investigation, and explanations from individuals alongside Bob Joyce personally. Skeptical commentators, nonetheless, insist implausible assertions necessitate implausible substantiation. Recognizing zero authentic allegations got ratified inside trustworthy institutional documentation or certified study. The outcome? Competing interpretations persisting. Certain observers categorize Bob Joyce as basically a clergyman whose acoustic qualities evoke recollection of entertainment's legendary personalities. Different observers categorize him as incarnating the most compelling celebrity speculation ever surfaced. Assessing if gathered content communicates overlooked revelation or merely symbolizes years of supposition accumulating into arbitrary chance represents individual interpretive conclusion. Unquestionable remains this narrative's persistence spanning generations. Cultivating examination extended decades subsequent to the artist's institutional death registration. Subsequent to receiving acoustic measurements, genealogical narration, participant commentary, and written correspondence, your perspective rests where? Did this inquiry uncover striking statistical anomalies? Alternatively, did research intensify inquiries institutional documentation has continuously evaded? Whatever perspective you finalize, singular reality persists. Dialogue concerning Bob Joyce and the entertainment personality exhibits no trajectory suggesting cessation in approaching future years. Should this narrative captivated your engagement, submit your evaluation via comment section engagement. Regarding the acoustic information, the genealogical statements, the individual recollections, or the correspondence, do you suspect evidence indicates statistical accident or something beyond? Next, proceed viewing our following documentary concerning supplementary baffling matters. Plus ensure subscription to Crime Brief for expanded investigative content. Some mysteries invite investigation, certain discoveries invite re-examination.